Sounds good. Looks good. See my screen? Awesome. Hopefully there's no problems. I went out and bought an absolute beast, so there's no lag at all because I was sick of it. Anyway, what are we getting into today, right? The assignment is called Cloner. I may or may not have used someone very close to me and special. So we're going to make a clone of this website, and then the website itself is going to be to make clones, right? I don't know how many, if it was like feasible and economically reasonable to make a clone of your own dog, I don't know how many people would do it. I probably wouldn't actually because it would be too creepy, but I bet a number of people would.
I would be afraid that like my clone would be an evil dog, Cujo or something.
I'm glad you mentioned that because on this website, it's going to seem like I planted you. On this website, we can make clones, right? So we're going to use the spread operator. That's going to be like our one condition. But what if a clone turns out evil, right? So we're going to use the filter method to terminate the evil ones. So number 5 tried to bite us when we were sleeping, right? So we can terminate them with a select box in the filter method. So that's our goal today. Select box, filter, spread operator. Destructuring. Those are the topics I want to hit. But any questions on the assignment today? We're going to build something somewhat similar, but not exactly. And use your own pet's image. So this time I specifically said it because you guys will take me literally when I say a clone of the website, right? Use your own pet's image for fun. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Or clone anything you want, I guess.
So do you want all the instructions too on the top? And
yeah, it doesn't hurt, right? If you don't want to, it doesn't matter too much, but you can if you want to remind yourselves. Or not. I don't really care if these instructions are here or not. I know yesterday I got a bunch of questions on that. I said yes, but I really don't care. This isn't teaching you anything new, really. But yeah. So if you have any questions, we can come back, but I'll show you what we're going to build today, right? So we're going to make Dragonpedia. Ooh, did I forget to? Yeah, I forgot on my notes. So let's see if I'm going to put this to the side for a second, but I'm going to try to generate on ChatGPT. Oh, I already did. Perfect. So I asked ChatGPT to generate me an array of dragon objects. So I'll copy these here in our notes. We'll use those later. But anyway, what do I want this to look like? So I just want a select box that at first says Draco or any dragon's name. And underneath the select box is all the details about Draco. And the cool thing is, so this is a select box. It's a little hard to see that, right? Maybe we'll make it blue. I don't know. But when you click on it, it then shows you. Is there a cool way I can show this? I don't think so. Maybe. Let me try this. So then it shows you all the different options down here, right? So Saphira, Fang, Lizardon, Aurora. I guess Aurora is cool. Some of these are not that cool. Blame ChatGPT. So when you click on it, it shows you all these options, right? And clicking on a different one shows you the details for a different dragon. Kind of simple, right? Questions on Dragonpedia? So as always, just as a reminder, even though this one's pretty simple, let's snip it so we don't have to go back and forth. And then, ooh, you see how quick that was? I like that. And then, do I have a coding folder yet? Where is it? Desktop, no. Users. There we go. It's all the way here. So in lecture, I'll just call this demo. So we have a brand new folder. I want to make a website for Dragonpedia. I'm going to make an index.html file. I'm going to do some boilerplate of HTML. I'm going to do a script tag. I don't think I'm going to use modules today, so I can do a normal one. I'm going to create an index.js file. And I'm going to run this one with live server. And first things first, let's get an image showing up of the demo that we want to build so we don't have to look back and forth, right? So I'm going to do image. Source is going to be, oh, it didn't save. Did I save it to the wrong place? Let me check
also,
it out.
I think in your script tag, there's no defer keyword.
Yeah, we'll throw that in there in a second. Sorry, it was users, anon, code. Can we create a shortcut to this one? Pin to quick access, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to throw demo into lecture, and then I want this one to show up, so I'm going to do demo.png. Shows up way too big. I'm going to quickly style it inline and just throw it on the bottom. So bottom 0, left 0, width 50%. Okay. I'll make it a little bigger. Oops, too big. Okay, so let's start building this, right? So as my recommendation always is to do as much as you can in HTML. So what are the elements we can do in HTML and what probably we can't, Lin J?
To start off with everything, I guess you can put a heading.
Yeah, so let's do an H1 of Dragonpedia. Awesome. Anything else, Lin J, we probably could get away with doing non-dynamically? I think I see one other element.
You mean like the Draco? Like the button?
Well, it's not a button, right? So I said it's a select box. So this was in
okay.
our bonus, but we haven't gone over this officially yet. So what is a select box? It's like a fancy kind of input, I guess. So here's the format. Use select and then a bunch of children options. And then inside you see this. So that's what we're building. So with that in mind, what do you think, Calypso? Is there anything else I can put on the page?
You could maybe put a div to hold, I don't know, the select box maybe? I really don't know.
Yeah, the select box isn't going to change. The content of it might, but the select box itself isn't going to change. Oh, and then there's one other element that I think is unchanging. What's that? What maybe would that be?
Deep container?
Yeah, we need a div to put the dragon container. Okay, so with those two things, let's switch to our JavaScript. Let's copy over the dragons. So this is going to be our state for this application. Actually, let me do this bigger because we're going to be mostly using the JavaScript. So this is kind of going to be our state of our application. Eventually, people are going to be able to add new dragons, edit dragons, delete dragons. Not today. So today, it won't really be like state because it's not going to change with user interactions, but eventually. What is the one? There is one major piece of state. So what changes based on user interaction?
The content inside the div.
The content inside the div, correct.
The options in the select box.
Not today, but eventually they would. But today we're not going to edit dragons. So today those options are the same. But there's one major interaction that the user is going to do with what I described today.
The selected dragon.
Exactly what the selected dragon is. So let's just say initially the selected dragon is the first dragon. And this is just a spec decision, right? There's no right answer here. So now the question is, how can we fill up this select box with our dragons? Fill up our select box with the dragons. Farhan, how can we fill up our select box with the dragons?
So we're gonna need to first query select the select box.
Oops.
Maybe we can put in a variable.
Oh, I was wondering why this isn't working with an input document. Yeah, so what are we query selecting?
We're gonna query select select box, and we can represent that as a variable, maybe select. So let select equals that.
Beautiful. Yep.
And then since we have the select box now, we can kind of like use one of the methods or things that we're going over. But select would be select dot. I don't think it would be dot text content. I think it would be, you need another option to kind of create the element option, right?
Yeah. So let's create an element called, an option element that we're calling option. Absolutely. We need that.
And from there, I guess we would use one of the methods, I guess, to kind of go through the whole array for each object and create
Oh yeah, you're
option.
thinking ahead because we're going to have to repeat this process as many dragons as we have. So now Farhan's thinking ahead. So you want to do what kind of for loop, which happens to be my favorite.
The for of?
Yeah, so let's do a for of loop to iterate through the dragons. So how would I do that, Farhan?
So we could say let Draco, I guess. Let Draco.
Ooh, no, not Draco.
Dragons.
Yeah.
Dragons.
Dragon one at a time.
Dragon, yes. And then of the array name, whatever the array name is.
And let's do a sanity check there. So Farhan got us some very good starting place, right? So we're iterating through each dragon one at a time. And for each dragon, what might we want to do? And remember, our objective right now is to just get this filled up, this select box. Sadiq, any ideas?
We can, as we're looping through it, we can create an option. And then we can change the option.value to dragon.name.
Option.value. There's a better property we can use as the value here. You know what? Can we come back to value? Because it'll make more sense later on. Can we skip value for the time being? Because it's not necessary to fill up this text box. Or sorry, this select box.
Text content.
Yeah, so right now let's do option.textContent. And what should that equal?
Dragon dot name.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, still nothing on my screen, but we're very close. What do you think, Maureen? What would be the next step if our objective is to fill up this select box? Mike? No. Still can't hear you. Okay, you got to get it working though for next time, okay? Vanessa?
We will have to append.
Yeah, append what to what?
Append the options to the page.
Well, there's no option to do like page.append. But your idea is right. But we have to be more specific. What are we appending to what?
Mm,
You want some help?
yeah.
Okay.
I know
Semsi?
we have to do append child, but I don't know.
Yes,
which-
you're right. We are going to use append child, but who are we appending to who?
I don't know. I need help.
Semsi?
Yeah. Select.append child and option.
Awesome. And now I think we should actually see. Okay, we have a bug. Cannot read property of null reading append child. Ooh, it doesn't like this. And this is, it's funny, Semsi is the one telling me because what's my bug, Semsi?
Defer.
Yeah. Semsi warned us and I ignored him completely, right? And I paid for it. Awesome. So now this is filled up. Very nice. Let's just pretend Draco's the first one. And I want to see Draco's information down below. So that's my next objective. We'll worry about the switching of the dragons later. Let's just, right now the selected dragon is Draco anyway. If we console.log selected dragon. So my next objective is just to see this information down below. So how can I see the selected dragon? And maybe we can be really lazy. Maybe in an effort to save some time, we can be, how could we be like a cat, right? The laziest possible to get this dragon information on the screen.
Can we use a spread operator somehow?
Not yet. That's coming up.
Yeah.
Or maybe. If we're not lazy, we can use spread operator. Yeah, let's see how it goes. So we put a place to put the dragon information to remind you. So the div's here. Dragon container. So what do we want to do? How do we get the selected dragon's information in that dragon container?
You gotta query select the div first.
We do, yeah. How would I do that?
Const div equals document dot query select div.
I'll do just dragon container just in case there's another div, even though there's not right now. Very nice. So we have our div. How can I fill it up with some stuff? Anything, ZO2?
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to create an element within it,
Sure.
like a p element.
Yeah.
So const information or info
Const info?
or p. Yeah.
Okay.
Equals document create element. And then a p.
Okay. What else do we want to do to this info?
Info.text content equals. And then can you do an array of elements? Like could you do like emoji comma, dot name comma emoji comma?
Oh. An array of elements. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure what you mean, I guess.
Then could you just, if we just put an ID, it's only going to show up the ID number, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. Ritu, what do you think? How can we get some... I mean, we'll just start with ID, right? How can we get the ID 1 to show up?
So you can do dragon.id. Dragons have S, I think.
I'm sorry?
Dragons have S.
Of 0.
Okay. Yeah, this will work, but I don't want to do it this way. I want to use selected dragon because this is going to change dynamically. Sorry. Let me be more clear. So let's do it the non-lazy way because we're running into a little confusion maybe. So let's just pretend I just want to get the ID 1 to show up right now. So how could I just get this ID 1 to show up for Draco?
We can append the info inside the div and then div inside the whatever the parent container.
One more time?
We have to append the info inside the div first.
Okay. So append child info. Whoops.
Shouldn't you do? Yeah. And then we have to append the div inside the parent container. Like.
Oh no, dragon container already exists. So
yeah, you have to append the div inside the dragon container.
The div is dragon container.
Okay.
Let me use a shortcut because we're maybe running a little short on time and I want you guys to get to the project. So I'm just going to JSON stringify the selected dragon and see how that goes. And then I'm going to append child info. Oh, whoops. Document. Or actually, div.text content equals json.stringify selected. This is not going to look great, but it gets us kind of where we need to be. We might come back to it if we have time because I would rather do it this exact format. Yeah, let's see how it goes with time and stuff. But that kind of works for now. So now we can start thinking about wait, I don't need this line, right? Yeah, that wasn't doing anything. Now we can start thinking about this select box. When I change it, I want this information to change, right? So, a sub goal. When I click this, I just want to see a console.log message clicked or changed, actually. How can I see that? I'll open it to the class because it's kind of tough.
Select dot add event listener.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now we're not going to use the normal one. The normal one we'd use is click, but there's a better one we can use, which is what?
Change.
Yeah, change is going to be the best for this type. And let's use an anonymous arrow function because we introduced those yesterday. So we can start using them. And here I'll just say changing. Cool. But now I need to know which dragon the user selected. So how can I console the ID of the dragon that was selected? Again, opens to the class because it's hard. I want to see the ID of, yeah, go ahead.
You need to capture the event inside the arrow function.
Okay. So we're capturing the event.
Event.target.value.
Event.target.value, correct. But now when we change this, it's taking the name, which maybe is fine actually, but better if we have it is to use the ID. So now down here, when we're creating our option, we actually want to give option.value to be what? So that we can capture it later when it's being changed. We want to give it a value of what information, which property from Dragon?
Dragon.id.
Yeah, dragon.id. Now the value will be the ID. So Draco is 1, Nimbus 10. And now this is cool. We have the Dragon ID. But now we want to change what variable?
The selected dragon one.
We want to change somehow selected dragon to be this one. So we need to look through our array of dragons and find one with the ID of our dragon ID. Does anyone know the method we're going to use to filter out all the objects from our array of the ID that aren't the ID we're looking for? Yeah, so this is going to be the first time we're using filter. So let's see how that works, right? So I'm going to do dragons.filter, and then the filter method for its callback takes a callback function as its argument. So I'll make a little anonymous callback function. And then if this expression here resolves to true or false, it keeps each item in the array or throws it out. You know what? I want to come back. I want to simplify things. So let's say we have these numbers, right? If I do dot filter and I just say true here, and let me describe the filter method. So filter method outputs an array with the same or less items than the original array. Outputs a new array, I'll say. Per the callback function argument, for each item, it gets invoked. And if it evaluates to true, it keeps the item and puts it in the new array. And if it evaluates to false, it throws the item out. So with that being said, this callback function I'm providing is going to be invoked on each one of these items. And if it returns true, it keeps it. And if it returns false, it gets rid of it. So what will this console.log produce?
The array containing the numbers?
Yeah, all the same array untouched. Because for each number, it's just returning true, and it's keeping it for the new array. So what will this produce in the console? Ritu?
So if it was true before, it would return the same array. It would change.
So one at a time, it evaluates each number, and it invokes this callback function that we've provided. If this expression evaluates to true, it keeps it. If it's false, it gets rid of it. So for the first number, when this callback function is invoked, what is going to be returned?
Nothing will be returned.
Well, false.
False.
Yeah. So after the fat arrow is what's returned. So it gets rid of it. And then number 2, it gets rid of it. And it gets rid of all of them. So what's returned?
An empty array.
Exactly. Yeah. An empty array. But now, if we want to be more specific, when this, for free, we get the item that's being evaluated in the array one at a time. So we can call this number. And here we can say num greater than 5. So the callback function is going to be invoked for the first number, and it's going to pass in 1. And does this evaluate to true or false from the number 1? Mohammed? I can't hear you. You're muted. Guys, we're on week 4, right? It's spacebar. Does that not work for you guys to hold spacebar? No? Okay. But still, we got to figure out how to get going, right? For our mics and unmuting. All right. Ellery?
Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, so this callback function will be invoked for each item to determine whether to throw it out or keep it for the new array. So the whole point of filter is it's filtering the numbers from the original array into a new array. So for the number 1, this callback will be invoked, and basically the number 1 will be passed in and is 1 greater than 5. What does that evaluate to? What does that evaluate to?
That's false. So what will be left over in the array is 6.
Yeah, you skipped right to the answer, but that's exactly right. So for 1 through 5, they'll all be false. So they'll be thrown out, and all we'll have left is the number 6 in our array. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let me try to trick you guys, right? Ketzerin, I know you can handle this. Trick. What do you think?
Undefined.
No. So filter always returns an array. It's just a question of how many of the original items get returned. All, none, or some?
Oh.
Why?
Gonna be
You're right, but why?
because it's like what I gonna say is like it didn't like asking like it's greater or less. It just like points to egg. Num like arrow function to egg. So it's mean gonna be return or is return true.
Yeah, the most correct technical language to describe that would be that 8 is truthy or falsy.
Truthy.
Yeah, so it gets converted to true eventually, and it keeps all these items. Yep.
Okay.
So with that being said, David, what do you think? What are we going to see?
It should be all of the numbers in the array.
All the original numbers?
Yeah, all the original.
Okay, what do you think, Daniel? Do you agree? No?
No, it's an empty string is a falsy, so I think it's gonna be an empty array.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And then, well, you guys get the idea, right? So what do we think about this one, Victor?
It should still be truthy, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah, it should just show all the numbers in the array also.
very nice. And more commonly, we'll see something that looks to be this flavor. What do you think about this, Pimpa?
It will keep only number 3, but get rid of the other.
Yeah, so only number 3 is true. All the others are false, so it keeps the 3. Exactly. And this will be the most standard way to see it. Okay? Any questions on filter method? So it's built in, you get Ellery.
Yeah, just want to make double check that it creates a new array. So it replaces everything in the array. It doesn't actually create a new array unless you.
No, it absolutely creates a new array. It's so. Sorry, is that what you said? So it's non-mutating.
Yes. Okay.
So what do I mean by non-mutating?
Oh, sorry, ask me.
Anyone, yeah, because it's a new concept, but
it's not changing the original array.
Yeah. And some methods are mutating and some are non-mutating. This one happens to be non-mutating. But just because that's how JavaScript lords made it.
Yeah, Ellery, you can just save it to a variable. So instead of console logging it, you could be like, this variable equals all that, and then it'll give you the variable will be that new array.
Yeah, and we'll see that in a second. Sorry, what? Okay, back to our dragons now. So we have the ID of the dragon we want. Is there a way we can filter these dragons to just get the one that matches our dragon ID using the concepts we just went over?
Can we put in a parameter dragon and then match that with the dragon ID? So it will return whatever matches with the dragon ID.
Yeah, so how do I write that?
So dragon ID or dragon dot ID equal to dragon ID.
Yeah, except there's one problem we're going to run into. So it's empty, but it shouldn't be. But there's a very tricky reason why it's false for all of them.
Do you need to turn it into a number?
Yeah, so this one is a string because it came from the user's interaction. So we need to convert it to, a number. And now we get an array of one object of whatever dragon we chose. So Saphira, and there's Saphira. And now we want to make whatever dragon was returned by this filter method our new selected dragon. So how can we do that? Instead of console.logging it, we want it to be our new selected dragon. This is really good practice for React. This is like the fundamental pattern of React.
Do you want to set instead of console log, set it to select the dragon equals dragon.filter, blah, 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 blah.
Except there's one problem. Selected dragon is what data type originally?
Oh, it's array.
No, it's an object. It's equal to Draco right now, an object. But this filter method returns what data type?
An array.
An array, which has, whoops. Oh, I have to, so my bug is that this is const. I'm going to change this to let so we can redeclare it. So I choose Saphira and I have an array of objects, but really I just want what?
The object.
The object. So how can I just get the object, the first object from this array?
Do you use the spread operator?
No, not yet. How do I get any, think of an array of just numbers. How do I get the first number?
The index.
Yeah. So I can do
dragon ID index dragon.
I can do bracket 0. So this whole thing returns an array, and I'm asking for the first item in that array. I'm going to show this concept a little simpler because, well, I think we need to. So let's just practice with these, right? So if I do dot filter and I do a little callback function, and for each of these objects, I want to call them dragon. And here I can just say dragon dot, or actually let's do a warm up, right? Of true. So I'm going to console.log this. What am I going to see? Zubida. So we have this big array that we're applying the filter method to, and a callback function that just returns true for each. What are we going to see in the console.log?
Does it return like the dragon title for each? I'm not certain.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good guess. I think you're thinking of map, maybe. Let's start with, so what data type does filter always return? Izzy?
It returns an sorry.
Oh, no worries. You were right. It returns an array. Yeah. So it's just a question of how many of the original items is it going to return? All, some, or none. That's all you have to ask in the filter method. So what do you think, Izzy? What are we going to see in the console? We know it's an array, but how many of our original items will be there?
All 3.
All 3. Awesome. Now, Izzy, what do you think about this?
Just no, there is no dragon name.
Yeah. Tried to tricksy you, right? Empty array. But now maybe we were looking for Terra, and then we'll see what.
You'll see Terra.
We'll see an array with one object. Yeah, the Terra object. Correct. Questions on the filter method? You'll see this every day in React. Okay. So where were we? Oh, so that's why we had to do bracket 0 to grab the first item in the array. Yeah. And now we can console.log selected dragon. And that's great. That's working. But what don't I see? What don't I see?
It's not changing in the...
It's not changing. So what should we wrap this? What should we wrap this entire code in?
A function.
Yeah, a function probably called render, because all these lines of code take state and translate it to the visual DOM of your website. So, yeah. And then we have to call this once to get the party started. Now, if the user changes a dragon, what should we invoke here, finally?
Invoke the function inside of this event listener.
Yep. So now they choose Saphira, and we see Saphira. They choose Fang, and we see Fang. Oh, we didn't use spread because we did it the lazy way. But we have a little time, so maybe we can go back to that. Questions so far, though?
I have a question, Max.
Yeah.
On line 80, target value, that's a string, right? That's why you're converting it to a number later.
Yeah. It might make more sense to just convert it here, right?
Okay.
But did you have a follow-up question to that?
No, I just wanted to clarify why you converted it to a number. I'm just assuming it was a string.
It was a string. Every time we grab values from the user, the URL, the web, the Chrome, the browser, it's always a string, even if it looks like a number confusingly. Yeah. Good question. Other questions?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So did you want it to always show, or was it supposed to be hidden and then when you select the dragon, it pops up?
Probably be nicer to eventually have it hide and then only show up when you click. But for this app, we said that the default is Draco. So that makes sense for our purposes.
If you didn't run render outside of like if you didn't invoke it at the bottom, wouldn't that do what you're talking about? Or no?
No.
Oh, because then it doesn't make the select box.
That's definitely an improvement you could do, though, but not one I'm going to spend time on right now. Because I'd rather do the spread operator for this. Other questions before we jump to spread? Okay, so here I said I want it to match exactly like this. So we used, where is it? We used this as a shorthand, but instead I just want to do one at a time. Like I want to do the ID first, so that ID 1 to show up. So how can I do that? Mehdi, any ideas? Or Daniel? That's fine.
Can you make a const and have it equal to the selected dragon selected dragon to have the spread operator happen?
What?
Sorry. You know what? Never mind. I thought I had something, but take it back.
Okay. I'm sorry. Here we're not going to use spread. We're going to use destructuring. I got them confused. And then you guys got confused. So we're going to actually use destructuring. But you don't have to worry about that right now. You can just... How do we get the ID 1 to show up? So I'll do the first one maybe. So I'm just going to call it like PID. I'm going to create a new element called P, or of type P. PID, I'm going to put text content of ID dragon.id. And then I'm going to append PID to the div and see how that looks. Dragon is not defined. What did I do wrong? Oh, does anyone know my bug here?
It should be dragons, and also it's an
selected
array of
dragon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. select dragon.
Yeah. So now we have the ID one. Very nice. So I'm going to repeat this process again. We're not going to do all of them. And I'm going to call this P emoji. It's another P tag. And here I'm going to say emoji. And here I'm going to say selected dragon.emoji. And we get the emoji. But do you see how I'm taking properties one by one off of the selected dragon? I need all the properties and values from selected dragon. So I can use something called destructuring, where I use these curly braces and I put in the property name of dragon I want to grab. In this case, it's ID. And I point it to the object. And now, instead of selected dragon.id having to write that, here I can just put ID. Selected dragon. And now it functions the same way. So with destructuring, I can grab the property I want from the object and save it as a variable with that property's value already declared. Questions on destructuring? No? But I don't just want ID, right? I also want emoji. So I can do comma emoji to also grab the emoji using destructuring from the object. And then we'll do one more just because 3 is nice round or nice round number. Feels nice, right? To have 3 examples of something. So we'll do P name. And here I'm change this to name, and then I'll also destructure the name. So this is equivalent to saying this. If I just have ID, sorry. So these two are equivalent right now. Do you see these 2 lines? Totally equivalent. Just developers like to be fancy and use destructuring.
What do we gain by that?
Your friends thinking you're cool. Yeah, it's just syntactic sugar. It doesn't do anything. But it is nice, honestly. But it saves a little bit of lines because you can do multiple of them. So I would have to write this a bunch of times. And instead I can just do so lines 98 and 99 are equivalent to just line 100. So it actually does save some lines.
So I have a question, and this might be getting ahead of myself, because I was confused when you said destructuring versus is there a way to do is there a way to take the object and take the key value with the key value pairs and just put it into an array, like an array of strings, and then for each item in that array, print out a p tag with whatever's in there?
Yeah, you could iterate through the object and do it like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd probably be better than, see how we're repeating ourselves here?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a problem. So you probably could do this more efficiently for sure.
Can you show that? Because, our codes look super long.
The problem is I would have to show another for loop. So how about tomorrow? We would have to do a whole brand new for loop called for in. So is tomorrow okay? Yeah, let's do tomorrow. But we will do that because I still have to show you the spread operator. Questions on destructuring?
So with that method, sorry about that, but so with that method that I was talking about, like taking each item in the array, is that the spread operator at that point?
So if you take out the items of an array or an object, that's the spread operator.
Okay.
Yeah, you would, but you would have to give me the details about what you're doing, or I don't know. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Final questions on destructuring. It's separate from spread operator.
So that only works on objects.
Destructuring?
Yeah.
No, it works on arrays as well, but we're holding off on the usage of that because you don't need it today, or because it's another layer of complexity that you don't need today. In fact, you don't need this. I mean, you need it eventually, but you certainly don't need it today if you don't want to use it. But I wanted to introduce it because you're going to see it all the time in React. We're trying to ease the shock of React, right? Which is impossible, but we're trying. Okay, let's get to the spread operator. I can't fit it into this dragon example in any way, but you are going to use it today. My favorite, so from the pre-work, what is the spread operator? What does it do? I mean, I just said it right a moment ago, but so were you? So either from the pre-work or if you were listening well, Mehdi, what do you think? What's the spread operator?
For the spread operator, I actually don't know.
Okay. Farhan, what's the spread operator?
It's kind of opening up the object and the array and like iterating through it.
Yeah, there's no iteration though, unless you set that up. It just it extracts all the meat from an object or an array. And then the question might be, well, why would you ever need that, right? Great for making copies of objects. This is my favorite usage of it. So I have a student, or should we do student, or I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Or no, let's make a copy of one of these. It's easier. We have it right here. So I have what is this? A dragon. We can console.log it. And I want to make a copy of it for whatever reason in code. Today, you're certainly going to make a bunch of copies, right? So how can I make a copy using the spread operator? Or anything. Hey, let's pretend the spread operator didn't exist. How can I just make a copy?
You pretty much have like the first array and then just do the ... with what you
not array though. What do we call the symbols?
Well, the spread.
We are going to use the spread operator, correct? But what do we call these symbols?
Oh, the brackets.
Curly braces? Yep.
Curly braces, yeah.
So we use our curly braces. If we're making a copy of dragon, we want the same data type, which is an object. So
and then you would put dragon after the...
Yeah, so we're basically saying take all the meat out of dragon and let it float in the air in our code and surround it with curly braces. And now we have a copy of dragon. But I'm surprised no one had the idea of...
Max, I think if you just put basically the variable name dragon, it'll just copy it.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted somebody to say. Why can't we just do this, right? In the console, it looks fine. What's the problem with this?
It will have the same memory address.
Yes, memory address.
Okay, so now we have to talk about the concept of primitive values versus values by reference. Objects and arrays are complex values that use value by reference instead of primitive values. So when you're thinking about when you're picturing an empty box of memory in the computer, Like you have the number 3, right? Or the string linj. These are all primitives. But what's different about a reference type, like an array or an object? In this empty box, do we just directly have the array? Or no?
No.
Yeah, the problem is we don't directly have the value in our little empty box. We have a pointer to another place in memory that actually has the value. So when we say copy equals dragon, we're just making a copy of the pointer. So let me show this. Here, we're just making another pointer that points to the same place. So now the problem is if we do copy.name equals Aurora, so if I console.log the copy, what will we see? Actually, let me do this. Copy.name and dragon.name. So what will we see here? So we made a copy called a copy of dragon called copy. We changed its name to Aurora. And then I'm asking to console.log copy.name and dragon.name. Who thinks they have a guess what we'll see and why?
2 Auroras.
Yeah, and why?
Because they share the same memory address. Like they point out to the
They're
same memory address.
they're pointing to the same actual object in memory. And maybe this is the feature you want, but maybe it's not. Maybe when you change one thing, you don't want the other to change, right? So if we use the spread operator to make a real copy that isn't just a copy of the pointer, now we have two independent entities in our memory. Questions on that?
And the reason we're using curly brackets is because we still want it to be an object. So if we want, we can put it in an array, so to speak. Would that be right?
No. Yeah, because we can't put this meat in an array because it doesn't make any sense for an array. An array, we just have values separated by commas, and here we have properties and values. Yeah. But it was a fun guess. Yeah.
But you could put, like, let's say you wanted to make an array of a bunch of copies. Could you put, like, the array brackets around that? And then
Yes.
put, like, okay.
Yeah. So here, if we took this array, we can make a copy of the array by doing what?
Array object
Array brackets, square brackets.
and curly brace.
No.
Oh, it'd be ... dragon R.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but my question was, like, let's say you have a bunch of objects you want to copy into a single array. Could you do that, like have all the different objects in the curly braces inside of the array? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, not quite.
So let's say you have an empty array, right? And you want to copy, like, if each of these was an object instead of being inside of an array.
Each
Could you
of
put,
these was an
like-
object?
Yeah, so like if you said like if they were just objects by themselves, like in the last example.
Oh. Like
And
this?
you wanted to copy, yeah. So if each of them was like that, it's like object 1, 2, 3, 4, and you wanted to put all those objects into an array. Could you just put brackets and then the curly braces ... each object's name?
I guess. But this would be a very strange pattern that I haven't seen. But yeah, I guess it would work. But usually when we have an array of objects, they're not even named. So this wouldn't be possible in the normal pattern. But technically this would not produce an error. Yeah. Okay, we're a little bit over time. So if there's any final questions, you can shout them out. If not, we'll do breakout rooms.